8, 10, 12 times a week, we're getting phone calls that say, system won't run, can't make juice, which is that's number one problem, right? A juice plant that can't make juice. We talked about the hero model in an implementation context, but we've picked up customers in our support team that had a hero support model. Another vendor had sold them a support agreement, but it was really just this one guy that knew their system and could help. And when that guy left, the support was no longer available to them, and they started looking for other options. And Rain Engineering has settled into being a company that rescues manufacturers who have a prophecy system but haven't used it to its fullest potential. And there's lots of reasons, but the reasons that we're talking about is they had a typical integration company. The hero model was used to deploy the system. That hero is gone. And somebody has to pick up the pieces and give the manufacturer something that they can run with. And so my favorite example is a juice company that's a juicing company that's a customer of ours. They juice fruit out in California. That goes into the fruit juice goes into various products and things. But this company had a hero come in and build a great system. They were developing a lot of things from scratch, including their process, like how are we even going to juice this fruit, and what does it mean to deliver a end product? How are we going to deliver it? How are we going to process it? How are we going to kill the bacteria in it? To how will the system track all these things happening in the plant? We have these FDA requirements. We have recall needs to be able to track recall and things like that if there's a problem with the product. And so we have this juicer. Let's talk about a little bit the journey that we went on with this client, because while we can't really talk about the names, what we can say is that year one for us with this client was really about creating a stable system that didn't require constant response to incidents. And so what did that first year look like?
I was going to say, the handoff there was at least admirable, right? The partnership between the integration companies, and we did get a good amount of download of information. And we took all of that and started compiling it, understanding the system. One of the biggest, just in general, if you're building a manufacturing system that requires inventory control and tracking, it is one of the more challenging components. It doesn't seem like it, but just transferring material from here to there and starting using it, there's always those reconciliation points between the ERP and MES and all that kind of stuff. That was always one of the big areas. But during those handoffs, it was still like problems are coming in, and it's like, hold on a second, I need to solve this problem, and then let's get back to training. And how do we take those incidents that are happening and like you like to say, let's not race to the bottom with a support plan. Let's make it so all those fires just stop happening and that we have problem resolution.
One day at a time, right? What was the biggest recurring issue that we had? And the biggest recurring issue that we had was the RFID tags on the inbound materials. The fruit was coming in a big bin, and the bin had RFID tags on it. And the RFID tags, you can debate the finer points of using RFID as opposed to using any other technology. But the fact is that there were a lot of duplicate reads and no reads in that system. And at a minimum, you have a forklift or an AGV emptying the semi-truck and putting the fruit on the conveyor to be weighed. The first in-plant tracking of the fruit happens right there when the RFID tag is read. And so the first thing we really had to address was to try to make that read bulletproof. The physical hardware and the physical limitations of radio frequency identification, RFID, in a plant like that has its limitations, and it was a challenge. Kind of the second thing is, let's assume that we read all the fruit right coming in, where are we putting the fruit in the inventory location? So as the fruit conveyed its way to the warehouse, which was holding, millions of pounds of fruit, where is that bin in from a location standpoint? Are we getting first in, first out, right? It mattered about that.
Okay, can we get RFID to work or not? And then being able to pivot and say, here's what it's going to take to move away from RFID, which is, I guess, is the next part, right? It just wasn't based on the metal that was in the place and all the robotics. RFID just was not able to be accurate enough, and to put together a plan that says this is how we're going to retrofit into a different model using barcode scanning and just creating a couple more tools too, so that whenever those inevitable inventory issues, how do you make it so that instead of it being an expert can go in and resolve the issue and investigate it, that there's tools available to the support team that we have here at Rain Engineering, as and in addition to the ERP and other inventory experts that are at the manufacturing site too, so that we can collaborate and quickly get to the what the issue is and resolve it as quickly as possible. With a larger group of people, right? So it's that iteration process really that I think is the secret sauce behind it, and what we've really appreciated and started helping manufacturing companies with is, but what about the long haul? What is your long-term goals? And it's easy to say, oh, what is that next continuous improvement project that you want to do? But what it really is how do you make sure that the system that you put in place with that first iteration continues to bear fruit on just being reliable for what it is, and making sure that as you have those constant changes of people need new products, people need new variables entered in, just small things even, that the system continues to be relevant, and that the data is clean, that people can rely on the information that's coming from the reports. And so there's just a lot of work in that. And the fact that we're sitting here in this podcast is a testament to that, because it's really just how do you build a model that can service the customer long term, and not just move on to the next project and leave them to kind of fend for themselves.
Yeah,
And
talking about stabilize. So it was stabilize, 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 reduce customization, stabilize some more, reduce customization, stabilize some more. And then later, years 2 and 3, it was like targeted projects to correct process problems. We're using RFID and we switched to barcode. We were using a custom integration. We went to API integration. All these things, including moving the system to the cloud. That was our first customer where we moved their on-prem system to the cloud, and everything that meant. Now, it's a very stable system. It has been for a few years. There's some nagging issues. There always are. There's still a lot of custom code. There always is. And but the customer continues to come back to us to continue to improve, expand, and develop the system. If we talk about the customer we had before that, the very first support customer we really had in our formal support agreement was a snack food manufacturer. And that snack food manufacturer had a long-standing system, very complex system, long-standing system, but the story was the same. Someone else built that system. Rain didn't. We were introduced as a way to support the existing system and to bring some stability, to reduce customization within that system.
yeah, and for the snack food company, they did build up the in-house team that could allow the software to continue beyond when the integration company was in there. And I think, a couple of other generic things to bring up is it could be through company acquisitions that you go from a company that had that big in-house team to now you're acquired and you don't have that big in-house team, and who's there to help you.
Yeah.
Rain Engineering has the model to do that. The other one is if an integration company goes completely under, right? Maybe they were sold off and chopped up into pieces, and it's like, okay, who's going to continue on with this? And of course, we share what we know. The first thing we'd love to do is build up an in-house team for a manufacturing company as much as they're ready to take on. We're ready to educate them and let them and bring that on. But a lot of times you still end up with that hero model. You can't have a 10-person in-house team for your manufacturing company, unless you're really large, you probably have 1 or 2 people, like 1.5 people that work for the manufacturing company that know how to keep it stable, that can answer the questions, build the reports. And what happens when they go on vacation? What happens when they change jobs, right?
They're
So
not allowed to take vacations. What
no,
happened?
they're not allowed, right? And
Yeah.
I felt that too back in the day.
Yeah.
So it takes a team. It takes more than just any individual. And the support plan that we have also, it's a real ITIL level program, right? It's not just an afterthought, just to appease the vendor support agreement, but we're really here to help people improve, and it's more than just words. We're proving it time and time again.
Yeah,
And
for listeners that don't know what ITIL is, or ITIL, as Chris was talking about, it's part of the IT standards for service management. IT service management has a standard called ITIL, and I think it's version 4 is the latest and greatest. But all that means is that an ITIL structured organization, support organization, fits into your help desk in a very natural way. So, for instance, how it works for us is that if a client uses a software like, let's say, ServiceNow or whatever to manage tickets, they call their help desk, and whenever they need help, the operations people are trained to know to call the help desk at their company they work for. And that doesn't change when you engage Rain. We fit into the help desk. So if you're an operator and you have a problem with a screen and you call the help desk, the only difference is that help desk call gets routed to us. And so the user doesn't see a change in their own behavior. It makes it real easy to adopt, but who's solving the problem for them when they do connect, when they do have a problem and they do call their service desk is Rain, and it's because we use that ITIL model to fit into the service management in the way that company needs us to do that. And of course, if it doesn't exist, if a company doesn't have a IT service management offering, we can provide ours. We can provide a 800 number or a email address that a customer can just call and get in direct contact with us to help them. So that's a fun and important part of our IT service management offering. Funny thing about, just to close out that last customer we talked about, was it takes a little while to get a customer trained on how to interact with us. And because I sold that customer the support contract, he called me every time he had a problem. I kept telling him, like, you call me, we talk about the problem because you're passionate about it, and then I have to go find the person that can help you. And the way I do that is to call our 800 number on your behalf and get plugged into the service guy that's ready to take your call and ready to help you right now. You could cut out the middleman by just calling the 800 number. And it took a while to get.
Yeah, eventually they see the value of that, but it's we're all trained to have that hero model, right? We're all trained to have that one-on-one, as opposed to the advantage of scaling up and really having your problem solved quicker.
Yeah. And I never mind a customer calling, but it does take some training and convincing that there's a way for them to get an answer faster. Everybody knows that Don slows things down.
A little bit of confusion, like the vendor themselves, like Prophecy, Velotic has a support plan, right? And pretty much they're embedding it in. You're paying it as part of your Prophecy software. And they're that pre-built understanding of, does your system have a bug in it that we need to fix? And they'll go above and beyond. Like if it's actually a bug that's with your application, they'll help you. But it's in either you have somebody in-house at your manufacturing site, or you have a representative like Rain Engineering that understands your application of your system. And so we can see where the problem's coming in, and we can zero in on where might there be a bug that the vendor would actually care about. And that's where the interaction happens between you and or Rain Engineering with the vendor support team. And really what they're caring about is, they say this all the time, if we can repeat it in our system, then we can help you figure out what the patch needs to be to fix the bug. That's what they're there to do, is to do that pre-built patching of the system. And the purpose-built solution that you have on top of that, that's where you need to have that ambassador between the two sides.
Yeah, I do want to say Velotic has a world-class Prophecy support team. These are some of the best people in the industry. They've been around forever. And even the younger folks that haven't been around forever are trained well. They have a great knowledge base. They do a great job. So I want to give kudos to the Velotic support team.
Some of them went through our training program.
Yeah, exactly. And some of them, well, all of them are pretty good at figuring out what's going on. But the path to figuring out what's going on when it's not directly a product problem, when it's because of the way the system was built, it's a challenge for them, because they don't know how to help, but
They have
because
to learn the situational awareness of the manufacturing process before they
yeah,
can help, because a lot of times it's a data issue, especially if operators are getting involved. It's like the system was built for the happy path,
yeah,
and nobody saw what would happen if some bad data came through.
yeah. And the other part of that is, as soon as you get into, like, we're not printing labels, and Prophecy is not printing labels, and we call the 800 number and we get Trevor at Velotics. Shout out to Trevor. We love Trevor and all the folks there. But you get Trevor at the Velotic help desk, and Trevor goes, okay, I've checked everything. I can't tell whether it's a hardware issue. Does somebody need to cycle power on the printer? Or is there a configuration problem in the software for the printer, the print software?
Something like Bartender, right?
Or is it something in between? Yeah. Or is it the integration in between? And that's not what they're trained to do, and it's not their responsibility. Their responsibility is to make sure Prophecy is working the way it's supposed to. Where our support picks up is that system view, that entire suite of systems, the 53 ancillary systems that you have integrated to Prophecy, the way Prophecy was built and constructed, how those systems interact with one another, how that system operates inside of your infrastructure. Like, all of those things are things that are the value added to support from the RAIN team, as well as if you're calling the Velotic help desk, you could call the Velotic help desk as a user at the client site and not really be able to explain what the issue is technically. You can only explain the experience you're having, the thing that's not working for you, or the button that's not on the screen that you're expecting to see, or whatever. Whereas our support team, as we get onboarded, we understand how your system looks and feels, and how it's supposed to work, and have had some training on the usability of the system. And so that onboarding piece in our support offering is absolutely mission critical to a client getting the help they need quickly. And Velotic, obviously, their help desk can't be trained on everybody's systems and the way everything works.
It's like, we inherited the system together. We really do believe if we just pour a couple of days worth of work into this particular thing, we can make this entire problem go away.
Yeah.
And so maybe if all you had was a support team, they could find the bandwidth to do that. But
Yeah.
we have that delivery team, throws a couple of days worth of work at it. Maybe it's just built into your support package you have with us, but it really is about that problem resolution and having the strength of a talented team that can say, let's be creative. Like you would say, let's be curious. Let's be problem solvers is another one of our key characteristics, right? And say, what if we could do this better? What would that look like? You give the example, RFID versus barcode, but it could just be a simple report, a simple button someone has to press that highlights the issue or resolves the issue quicker. And that's what it comes down to, is just the iterations of it. That's what you get with a world-class support team.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll say about that is, in the IT service management model, there is incident management. When you have an incident, when something happens, the solution to an incident is restoring service. That's the number one thing, and that is going to be what Velotic is most concerned with. Is Prophecy is down, I'm not making product, so we need to fix it, restore service as quickly as possible. That does not always include, unless you have a premium support model with Velotic, that doesn't necessarily include getting to the root cause and stopping that problem from ever happening again. That's problem management. Many of our customers, when we do a project with them, it's their first time using MES. And we include support usually through the remainder of the year when we deploy a system. So if it takes us 6 months to deploy a system, we usually include a 6-month support agreement with them so they can experience what it's like to have us to support them, but also just to make sure we've left them with a stable system that really anyone could come behind us and support. Why don't you tell customers and viewers and attendees what they should do if they want to hear more from us?
If you like what you heard in these sessions, please subscribe, because we have so much more good content to provide to you. We love to hear your comments.